Hello and welcome to Mining Review Africa, and we are at Mining Indaba 2026. And I'm talking to Eben van Zyl, who's a director at Beech Veltman Incorporated, about a topic that affects the mining sector quite severely. Eben, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, now, gender-based violence and femicide was declared a national disaster in South Africa last year. In fact, the Minister for Social Development called for urgent action. How prevalent is this issue in the mining sector?
Unfortunately, GBVF is something that plagues society in general and is quite prevalent in the mining industry. Rio Tinto, one of the largest mining companies in the world, they've got operations in 35 countries, identified that as a responsible employer and corporate citizen, that equal emphasis needs to be placed on psychological safety and workplace culture. To that end, they appointed an external company, Elizabeth Broderick and Company, they called, to conduct an assessment essentially on their workplace culture. They interviewed over 10,000 respondents across all of these operations, and unfortunately, the findings were largely that bullying, sexual harassment, and the like are systemic and is prevalent in at least half of all of the operations and was applicable to half of all of the respondents.
Right. Now, Eben, can you tell me, when it comes to the DMRE, do they have any obligations imposed on the mining sector to combat GBVF?
So in addition to the national government declaring it a national disaster, the Chief Inspectors of Mines issued a guidance note on the management of GBVF safety and security issues for women in the mining industry. Now, this guidance note effectively aims to give guidance to employers, mining houses, on how to manage and deal with GBVF and related issues in the working place.
Okay, but where are we falling short in this regard when it comes to mining operations in South Africa? Because clearly the problem is very prevalent.
So the guidance note itself is not legally binding the same way a mandatory code of practice would be that is issued by the chief inspector. So the guidance note is exactly that. It's advisory. So a lot of employers opt not to comply because there's no legal stick to beat them with, so they don't. And those operations that do establish GBVF committees and so on don't really scrutinize the type of people serving on the committee, so they generally make it open to anybody that wants to serve. So the criteria is somebody who's willing and able, so to speak. But at some operations, you'll have a person that's a machine operator being the chairperson of this committee, and in others, it would be a senior manager. And unfortunately, depending on the type of management you have, that also limits the access that that person would have to higher ups in the organization to really take forward issues that they identify in the GBF space that's reported to them as a committee.
Okay. Now, Evan, can you talk to me about the importance of training all stakeholders in order to create awareness so that we can reduce the number of GBVF instances on mine sites?
So training plays an absolutely critical role. End of last year, we hosted various training sessions at mines on GBVF and sexual harassment, and it was actually shocking to find that most of the attendees who were serving on GBF committees and other associated committees at the mines had no idea what really constituted GBVF type incidents, sexual harassment, bullying and the like. So the first step was really just to get across the line, what is it that you as a committee need to deal with in order to help and support then the people at the mines that bring these issues to your attention. So training absolutely plays a critical part so that these people can properly service the people that then bring these issues to them. Because if you don't understand the basics of what is GBVF, safety and security issues for women, how would you possibly be able to assist them and ultimately create a safer working environment?
Okay. Now, Eben, tell me, when these incidents do happen, what should be the company's approach to ensure legal compliance, yet at the same time supporting the victims of GBVF?
So I think a big gap at this stage is that a lot of companies treat it as an HR issue. So it's a human resources issue that's dealt with by HR and so on, but they should also treat it as a safety issue. Sections 2 and 5 of the Mine Health and Safety Act place an obligation on the employer to ensure a safe and healthy working environment. So ultimately, the employer needs to make sure that when they deal with these type of issues, that they also treat it not only as a social issue or an HR issue, but as a true safety issue, because they have that obligation in terms of sections 2 and 5 to ensure a safe and healthy working environment. So when these issues are reported to them, it's not just sidelining it as an HR matter, but properly dealing with it in terms of the integrated health and safety management systems and putting protocols in place, standards and procedures to properly deal with it, manage it and escalate it as may be necessary.
Okay, finally, Eben, looking ahead, do you anticipate increased scrutiny or enforcement around GBVF in the mining sector?
Absolutely. I mean, last year, never mind in the mining industry, there was a very heavy focus on GBVF in the country as well. We have seen cases at mines where reports have been made directly to the Department of Mineral Resources by complainants, and they do come to the mines to investigate those complaints, which is indicative to me that they are treating it as a health and safety related issue. So in short, I believe that we will see a heavy increase or an uptick in enforcement. While the guideline, as I said, is not legally binding as such, it will reflect poorly on employers if they don't comply and implement it during audits and inspections by the department. And most certainly where there are reports of such issues happening, we have seen the inspectors coming to the mines and issuing directives to the mine to ensure compliance.
Okay. Well, Eben, it really is a serious issue in the mining sector. So let's hope we can get this right. Eben van Zyl, Director at Beech Veltman Incorporated. Thank you for joining us on Mining Review Africa today.
Super. Thanks for having me.